Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in again. Remember to always like, share, comment, and for those who haven't already done so, kindly subscribe. It helps the channel to grow. Today, I'll be talking on another incident of violence. And I have a strong suspicion that with investigation, it will be found out that this is a situation of intimate partner violence, although at first blush, that's not what it's coming off as. You see, the story is making the rounds online that a student of the Federal University of Technology, Owerri, in Imo State, which is in the southeastern part of Nigeria, has poured hot water on her colleague, Wisdom Uchenna Chukwuemeka. The young lady in question is Miracle Ogochukwu Chiagoziem, who is a 300 level student, while the person, her victim, is a 400 level student of the geology department. Now, Ogochukwu reportedly poured hot water on Chukwuemeka at their hostel in Eziobodo on Thursday afternoon. On Thursday, the 4th of November, because he supposedly didn't answer the door after she knocked to get toothpaste. The arrested student is said to have created a scene in front of Chukwuemeka's door, even though he had company, before returning to her room. However, after being confronted by the geology student later, that is her victim, Uchenna, the argument got heated, became violent, and she ended up emptying a pot of hot water on him. An eyewitness is said to have described the incident thus. Wisdom later came out to confront her over her behavior, and an argument ensued. She threatened to pour hot water on him if he doesn't leave. A fellow student even stepped in to pacify them, but before she could say Jack, Miracle carried out her threat. She emptied a pot of hot water on both Wisdom and the lady. Wisdom is currently hospitalized and severely scarred. The water was targeted at his private parts, and now his genitals are completely peeled. He is currently at risk of missing his entire exams for the current semester, which may result in an extra year for him. Another version of the same story has it that the young lady in question came to borrow toothpaste from Wisdom. The young lady, her name is Miracle, and the fellow who she poured hot water on, his name is Wisdom. So apparently the story is that Miracle came to borrow toothpaste from Wisdom, and while she stood at the door knocking, it took him forever to attend to her, and when he eventually did, it became evident that he had company, and she flared up, got worked up, embarrassed him, yelled at him, had a whole fighting match. When I say fighting in this instance, I'm talking about a hot exchange of words, after which she retreated back to her room. Where Wisdom failed himself was he followed her. He probably felt embarrassed with the way the whole thing went down and decided to, continue from where the argument stopped. So he followed her, restarted the argument, and this lady, maybe she was in the process of heating water to take a bath or to prepare a meal. I don't think she just started heating water when she saw Wisdom coming. But she already had a, pot of boiling water going. And the more he spoke, the more she issued threats. Kept threatening to empty the hot water on him if he wouldn't keep quiet. And just as somebody else tried to intervene, she carried out her threat. The reason this story comes with a lot of holes for me, and I believe that she's already been arrested, by the way. I honestly believe that as the investigations continue, we'll come to realize that Wisdom and Miracle are in a relationship. Probably something they're trying to keep very discreet for reasons best known to them. Maybe they both have other partners and they don't. But, the whole toothpaste thing just doesn't work. From my knowledge of the way university campuses work in Nigeria, usually the boys and the girls, the males and the females are kept separate. I don't know the specifics for FUTU, that's Federal University of Technology, Owerri. But that's just the basic thing. You have the girls' hostel, you have the boys' hostel. That's how it usually goes. I find it difficult to believe that Miracle could not find anybody in the whole girls' hostel. She could not find any friends. She couldn't reach anybody on phone who was willing to share toothpaste with her. And she had to walk all the way from there to Wisdom's room to get toothpaste. So that's number one. Now, if it were just the toothpaste, okay, you're knocking on his door, he's not responding to you, you'd leave. You'd go try your luck elsewhere. But she wouldn't stop until he eventually attended to her, at which point she now realized that he had company. I can bet anything that the insults she hurled at him would have been, the type that really cut deep. And then she left and he followed her. And then now, when you also consider the part of his body she targeted, she didn't pick up the boiling water and throw it in his face, which would have been just as bad. But the fact that she aimed at his genitals, usually that suggests there's something going on. Women who have a tendency to that level of violence aim for the genitals. And usually it's women that you are intimately involved with. The whole mentality of, if I can't have you, nobody else will. So right now, based on my small knowledge as a journalist, I know that part of the male anatomy is not particularly compatible with extremes of heat. The young man in question is, of course, severely scalded and is currently in hospital. It gives me relief to know that she has been arrested. I hope the law takes its course. I also hope deeply that Wisdom is able to recover fully from the damage that has been done to him. May it not be a fatal thing. Exams are exams. He can rewrite them at any point, especially considering the fact that this is a well-known situation where, he was in hospital during exams. I don't see, he will have carryovers, but life goes on. That's okay. My prayer for him is that he recovers fully from the level of injury sustained. I also pray that he is well attended to, such that it does not lead to a fatality. Bottom line is, I pray he comes out of this alive. And I'll also still use this as a teaching moment. Although ordinarily when I give my talks, I'm more concerned with young girls being smart about the choices they make and things like that. At the end of the day, domestic violence could be from either of the two parties. In this case, a young man who, from eyewitness accounts, did not even lay a hand on this girl. So it's not like they were in the middle of, like a physical altercation and she didn't know what to do, so that was her last resort. It wasn't a last resort. It was actually the first thing she did. If you are involved with anybody, the time for you to start checking the content of their character is before things get serious, not afterwards. Usually by that point, it's a bit late. Which is why, for my part, I would always suggest that although nowadays intimacy before marriage is very commonplace. So it will be difficult for me now to try to sell a message of abstinence. However, if you must get physically involved with somebody to that level, take your time, try to know the person to a certain degree, and then make up your mind if this is the kind of person that you want to enter that kind of relationship with. Which is why, for my part, I do not subscribe to all this nonsense about how one night stands are empowering. I don't know who even came up with that flawed notion. It doesn't empower the man, it doesn't empower the woman. Physical intimacy is something that is so deep that if you want to understand how deep it is, how seriously society takes things like that, go and observe how rapists are treated in any serious society. And that is when you'll know that the coming of a man and a woman together in physical intimacy is not something that should be played with. If it was something that's a joke, rape would be a non-issue. This is all conjecture on my part. But anybody who is not extremely naive can read between the lines and know that there is more to this whole thing than toothpaste. It's not possible that that young man got scalded because of toothpaste and then the part of his body that she aimed for. My heart goes out to Wisdom's family, because they're probably going to bear the brunt of footing the bills while waiting with bated breath to know the status of the young man. I reiterate, be you male or female, if you start a friendship with somebody that you have observed tends to want to solve problems with violence, does not know how to regulate their temper, is quick to fly off the handle and lose control over small things, space that person quickly. If you're unlucky enough to already be married to such a person, all I can tell you is sorry. And please start planning your exits so that you don't become the next person that we put in the ground.